Mic check. Hello. A little lower. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be starting our quarter on this today, but before we even start any of the topic here, I talked to the elders about the fact that I wanted to capture this, and then if we have the online footage, I would transcribe the things that we talk about in this class, and then after however many weeks we do this, I'll transform this into another book. It's just that the topic itself has been on my mind, and so it's fairly heavy, and so I think with all our answers, putting it all together, I think it would be a very useful book for some people. And so I guess this is a disclaimer. If you do not like, if you wouldn't want you to be quoted in a book, there's a very good chance that if you share here that I might. But if you don't, it's okay. Just tell me. I'll mark it off and say, so-and-so does not want their words on the book, and that's all right. So this is my legal disclaimer. Speak now or forever hold your peace, or be quoted in the book. But don't be shy about, talking. Just talk away if you have an answer or something. And if you don't want to hear, just let me know. It's all right. I'm probably going to have to do this every week if we have different people, just to kind of warn you. It's my intent to capture all of this and transform it into a book called Pebbles and Boulders is what we're going to be talking about. And so with all that disclaimer out of the way, today we're going to talk a little bit about the introduction of all that we're going to be seeing, and then we'll see how the quarter goes. So the very first question, I guess, as we start to wrap our minds around the topic, the very first question that I would like to ask you is, have you ever had an existential crisis? Have you ever had that questioning of your purpose in life and who I am and what's the point of it? What's the point of it all? And so if you had that moment in life when you wonder all of this, we are not alone. First, we're not alone because so many of us do that, depending on where they are in life and what has happened to them in life. But we also know that King Solomon had the exact same thing, and it put a whole entire book in the Bible for us, that the wisest man in the world was questioning his existence, the point of it all. In Ecclesiastes 1, we find him in a mental place of a serious existential confrontation. Solomon he has it all. He has the wisdom, he has the power, he has everything that people want, which is the riches and the fame and the name and being the king of a nation. And most translations use the word vanity when Solomon is talking about these things. I don't like the word vanity for the translation of Ecclesiastes, because, and maybe it's just me and my knowledge of the English language, I equate vanity with external beauty. With when somebody that looks in the mirror and sees themselves and all that. And that's why they call it a vanity, because they're just looking at yourself and putting makeup on, doing your hair, shaving. And so when all the different translations translate the word vanity, it doesn't capture what Solomon is really asking us or saying or telling us. I prefer, actually, surprisingly, how the NIV used the word for vanity in there. If you have your Bible on your phone, you can probably pull whatever translation you want. And when he uses the word vanity, the NIV translates meaningless. And so I decided to read from that translation the whole chapter for you today, Ecclesiastes chapter 1. So let's take a moment and go through Ecclesiastes 1 with the translation of the word vanity actually as meaningless. And you see the impact of that little change in the word there. Everything is meaningless. The words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough seeing, nor ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There's nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. Wisdom is meaningless. I, the teacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem. I applied my mind to study and to explore by wisdom all that is done under the heavens. What a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. I have seen all the things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. What is crooked cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. I said to myself, look, I have increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled over Jerusalem before me. I have experienced much wisdom and knowledge. Then I applied myself to the understanding of wisdom and also of madness and folly. But I learned that this too is a chasing after the wind. For with such wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. Ooh, if you really take the time to look at Ecclesiastes and think about this passage, what's going on through Solomon's mind? Right? I didn't do, since we're not here to study Ecclesiastes, it's just I wanted to capture this place where Solomon is. But if you do a study of Ecclesiastes, you're going to find where he is in his reign of Israel when he pens these words, right? You're going to find, you may study some of his decisions, what may have happened in his life, that at what point he is in that he's questioning, what's the point of all this? It all keeps repeating. We do all this stuff that we're in this battle over and over, and then when we're gone, the next generation battles the same thing. But luckily for us, I know, because it's very dark, if you just stop there, done, let's go home and I'll be depressed, right? But luckily for us, Solomon didn't stop there. His soliloquy wasn't just that. He eventually does give a clear answer for the meaning of it all. He comes all around, as dark as he goes, he finally answers it all. But for now, I wanted us to understand this feeling that hits us. That sometimes we find ourselves in that point in our Christian walk, in our family life, in our understanding of self. And when it does, when we're questioning, what's the point of it all? Everybody wants to be a boulder. That's why I said the name of the class is Pebbles and Boulders. Boulders are those characters in history, in life, or we ourselves may be some of those. Everybody wants to be that big affecting person, making a difference in people's lives and changing the world, which I guess I may be getting a little ahead of myself here. Because when we find this questioning of who we are, nobody wants to be a pebble. Because we're already there in that place feeling insignificant, feeling like we don't matter. What's the difference? That's what Solomon was saying here. What's the point of all this? I'm laboring, I'm doing all these things, and when we find ourselves there, we want to think of ourselves as, I want to make an impact. I want to make a difference. I want to be a boulder. I don't want to be a little pebble in this life. So everyone, and that's in the history of mankind, is looking for a great meaning for life. Many are looking for that major impact in the world. And philosophical thinkers have been diving into this matter for about 5,000 years. At least that's what the archaeological and historical record shows, that for about 5,000 years, people have been questioning what's the point of it all. And so many of these present and past figures, they have a quote or another, leaving their mark in this world, talking about leaving a legacy, right? Because if we don't leave a legacy, it's all pointless. Why are we here, right? So if every single one of us here did not establish a Christian home or a children's home, did not become a missionary and change an entire country and made entire denominations convert and didn't make an impact and feed 5,000 hungry here and there, and if your name is not inscribed in a building because of the impact that you left, your life was meaningless. That's what Solomon was talking about. And that's what I'm going to tell you different. So before you get all depressed, I'm going to tell you different as we go through these weeks. So these aspirations of having like such an impact that you will be remembered when you're gone. I wrote it down in my notes here, only a few to share with you today. I came across hundreds of them. When you look for inspirational quotes, there are, the internet is wonderful for that. You can find thousands of people talking about the leaving your mark in this world. So I was going to read a few of you. Some of you may know the people by name off the bat. Some I'll ask you for help for you to tell me who they are, because I saw the name. I like the quote to share with you guys. I have no idea who they are. Apparently they're famous enough to have a quote about them. So I'll read a few of you, but there's artists and authors and politicians and religious leaders and athletes and more that all had something to say about leaving your mark in this world. So here's the few that I have for our class, but if you want more, I do have it. I just put a few on my notes. For you to have an idea, I have 3 pages of these quotes. But I'll read just a few. Or we can read it all. No, just kidding. The first one that I marked on my list was Benjamin Franklin. He said, if you would not be forgotten as soon as you're dead, either write something worth reading or do something worth writing. Clever, I guess. Well, some people do something worth writing is just not good. They want to be remembered so bad that they do atrocious things just so somebody can talk about them, even though they're gone. There's a lot of people that we know in history. Anyway, I could go on, but that's not our point today. Maybe we could go on. There's time. Jim Rohn. Now, that's one I do not know, don't recognize the name, but he said this. All good men and women must take responsibility to create legacies that will take the next generation to a level we could only imagine. It's all our responsibilities that if we are not helping the next generation get to the next level, well, I don't know, I guess we're meaningless, as Solomon said. Oh, this one's a good one. If you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. Maya Angelou. Which is wonderful, right? You feel so inspired by it. Hiroshima and Nagasaki will never be erased. They left a mark. Just getting dark. I'm being facetious. But it's you got to be careful with these inspirational quotes when you are in that dark place, because some people take it quite literally. Warren Buffett. If you don't know who Warren Buffett is, you don't know finances, right? Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. True. I'm inspired. Let's go plant a tree. I don't think that's what he meant, but Stephen Covey said the need to leave a legacy is our spiritual need to have a sense of meaning, purpose, personal congruence, and contribution. Now we're getting to somewhere that it's really speaking to what are we doing? We're searching for this meaning, and there's that, what I like to call that gap, that hole in your soul, that when you don't have the right meaning, you are always searching. And sometimes we have the meaning right in front of us, we just don't see it. And if we don't see it, we keep searching even though it's right in front of us. William James, another one that I'm not very familiar with. The great use of life is to spend it for something that will outlast it. Ponder on that one for a second. The great use of life is to spend it for something that will outlast it. Okay. Ooh, finally, this one. Now, I got to get my football straight. You let me know if he was I picture him as a running back. Maybe he was a wide receiver. Still is. Ray Lewis, Ravens running back. Anybody help me out here? Linebacker. Thank you. I knew there was a back in there somewhere. So running back, linebacker, there's B-A-C-K. But he said this: do whatever you got to do to chase your legacy every second of your life. Now you notice the thread there is that all of these and hundreds more are all telling us to find that bigger purpose, leave that big mark. If you don't leave that big mark, you're useless. What's the point of it all, right? You're not changing any big thing in the world. You're not a boulder. If you're not a boulder, just serve me so I can be a boulder. I don't know. And they don't have really, the people that are saying these quotes, it's not a testament against them. It's the mentality that we've had for 5,000 years, that you have to find the purpose in life. And when we find ourselves looking for that purpose and not finding the answer, questioning the answers, we struggle. We all want to be boulders. All of this desire to make an impact is what I call our desire to be boulders. Because of all this mentality of we have to make this huge impact. We associate making an impact with larger-than-life acts that leave the human race in awe of the difference you made. What if you saved 10,000 lives and nobody knew? Were you not important to those 10,000 lives? Oh, I want to just cross my mind, and if I had thought of this before, maybe I'd find the video and we play it. And there's this gentleman during World War II that he saved, I don't know how many Jewish lives by whatever the work it was that he did. He snuck them out of where they were. And now he is at his 80s or 90s. If you've seen this video, you know what I'm talking about. And he's in a talk show. And unbeknownst to him, every single life in that audience, and they show, and they're talking about the work that he did during World War II. Nobody knew what he had done until, I guess, now that we've seen this video. And I guess the host, because you just see the captions, they're not really playing the audio of the talk show. I guess the host says something about if Mr. So-and-so helped save your life in Auschwitz or wherever it was, the camps that they were going to, please stand up. And every single person in the audience stood up. And then this guy realized those are all the kids. And that's what it was. It was kids that he helped save, Jewish kids. And then he realized that those were all the kids that he helped save. And it just makes you think. If somebody didn't dig that up and talk about it and share it, would it still have made a difference in so many lives? The answer is yes. It's like that. There's no, there's no discussion. It's not one of those. If there's nobody there to hear the tree fall, does it make a sound, or And by the way, the answer to that, if you ever wondered, it's yes. It still makes the sound. That philosophical questions. But anyway. So we scramble all these ideas and feelings as we continue in this search for meaning. And I actually found this infographic. The name of the scholar that put this together is Anna Vital, that shows how humans have been pondering on the meaning of life millennia after millennium. And it captures, I don't know if we can get it up there, it captures the last 5,000 years of philosophies attempting to answer that question. I don't know if it's a little fuzzy. It's the best image I could find. It's better on the paper. But past 5,000 years ago, you had natural pantheism. They were worshiping nature because they're trying to find the meaning of life. It's in nature. At that same era, you start those that are believing in theism, that there is a God, there's something beyond us. And you have Taoism, you have determinism, Confucianism, Mohism. Some of these is I'm just putting it here because it's interesting. If you're interested in the subject, you study some of these philosophies and world religions. But the common thread of all of these up to this day is it's that constant search for meaning. And some, I don't know if you notice here, they have the little extra half moon or whatever in the left or the right saying it's Eastern philosophy or religion or is Western, and pointing out which part of the world adopted these kinds of philosophies that are trying to answer what is the meaning of life? What's the point of it all? Is there a point of it all if I'm not a boulder? If I'm not saving 10,000 people? If I'm not changing a country and leaving my mark, having my name on the building? Which is pretty awesome, right? If you help something so bad that they put your name on the building, then the Maestri soccer field. Who doesn't want that, right? I guess a lot of people don't want that, but I find it interesting that this I think she's a professor, maybe not. You got all the way up here to in the very close to the question mark over here, absurdism. Stop trying to find the meaning, just live. With that comes the dismissal of faith. And so that's where we find ourselves, right? We see the decline of the numbers of faith in our country, in the world in general. Well, not in the world in general, because there's some places that churches are flourishing, are growing. And persecution is a wonderful thing for the growth of the church. People don't realize that. We're so afraid of, oh, we're being persecuted. Well, you don't realize that the times when the church grew the strongest was when they're being persecuted. Comfort tends to make us complacent. But anyway, existentialism, the one right before the last one, make decisions and be positive. Logical positivism. Life has no meaning until you give it one. I don't know, I can't go on. I guess I do have time to touch on some of these. But for the sake of us getting to my last 2 pages and having some time to open the floor for some discussion, questions, and things that may come here for us, I'll move on. So at the risk of sounding like an arrogant intellectual, I will tell you, I must share what I believe. I have the answer for this 5,000-year-old can talk year-old question. Year-old question. 5,000 years. Say that really fast. 5,000-year-old question. And there you go. It came out. I have the answer. It doesn't take a genius to know the answer for the meaning of life, for what people have searching for 5,000 years. It has been given to us in writing that long ago. And actually the answer was spelled out in between the year 970 BC and the year 930 BC. That's found in when Solomon penned down his thoughts in Proverbs. Also in Ecclesiastes, when he concludes the matter, he gives an answer, and we have the answer to the meaning of it all. We can stop searching. We continue to search because the answer was given, and a lot of people don't like it. That's the reality. I'm just imagining here a situation that we do that with day-to-day things. Here's the answer. I don't like it. I'm going to keep looking for it. Oh, we do that with our health, don't we? The doctor says, hey, you just gotta stop doing this. No, give me a pill. Just don't jump out of the airplane. No, give me a helmet. I like that one. Let me read to you Ecclesiastes 12:13. So when you get towards the end of Ecclesiastes, you have the answer. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. So after Solomon gives us this dark, deep, depressing beginning to Ecclesiastes, he brings us all back around and says, let's hear the conclusion of the whole matter. You want to know what the meaning of life is? You want to know the great secret of the universe that everybody has been looking for thousands of years? Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is man's all. That's it. There is no other greater thing. There is no special dispensation. There is no special action that you have to take. All you have to do is fear Him, follow His commands, and whatever He puts in place for you, it's done. It is further confirmed what Solomon said here by other authors in the Bible. Proverbs 16:9, it says, the heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. Jeremiah said in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Now let's pause for a second and not overread into what Jeremiah is saying. Because once again, we get back into that, oh yeah, God has a plan for me. It's going to be a great purpose. I'm going to change this because I want to be the boulder. I want to be the big thing. And meanwhile, God is just thinking, I plan for you to get up every morning. I plan for you to brush your teeth every morning. I plan for you to be a decent human being. And when you get through all of this every day of your life, the routine that you think it's so meaningless, you have played a role into exactly what I wanted for you. What that is, that's what we're going to keep looking into our classes here. Because those are the pebble things that we dismiss so much. We struggle with finding meaning and accepting that maybe the plans that God has for you doesn't involve saving 10,000 Jews. Doesn't involve becoming the big cheese of a huge company. Oh, but that can't be it because, everybody's telling me I have to make an impact, leave my mark, be remembered. Ponder with me for a second. If we have, now math, if we have about 8 billion people, 7 billion, 8 billion, somewhere in there, billions of people in this world alive today, how many more have passed away in the history of mankind? Right? And how many of those you know them by name because of the mark they left in this world? Right? Maybe a few people we study in history. So let's just say the numbers are not in our favor if we're gonna pursue the person that 2,000 years from now people are talking about our name. Right? So when Jeremiah wrote, "For I know the plans that I have for you," there's no implication here that the plans that he has for you are the bolder kind of plans. It may be. And what we're going to continue to talk about, it's maybe that we need to be ready. When you find yourself needing to be the person that is the one that makes a difference, that is the one that establishes something that impacts hundreds of lives, then yes, by all means, I'm not telling you to shy away from that. Be that person. But don't dismiss the pebbleness that we might need to be. Psalm 32:8. It says, "I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you." Esther 4:14 says, "Perhaps you were born for such a time as this." If you know the story of Esther, you know that she had no idea that God had everything in place to save his nation because of Mordecai and Esther. And so, perhaps you were born for such a time as this. And then in the New Testament, we have Romans 8:28. "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." I struggle with the concept of calling. Because how do you know it's God? Right? Unless it's a very clear voice from heaven. How do you know that this calling that we're feeling is God and not our pride and not our desire to make a difference, to be a bolder? So I struggle when people say, "I'm being called." Yes, God has called everyone to his purpose. And so it takes that wisdom and that discernment to know when something is put in your heart that you need to do, that it is indeed part of the grander scheme of God, or simply just doing the right thing. If you're the most qualified person to get a work done and you shy away from it, if you're the only person that can get that done and you shy away from it, were you ignoring God's calling? See, I know I'm throwing some very heavy things at you here. Because it is that conflict that we have of the desire to make a difference and the acceptance of the difference that we can make may not be as big as we imagine. Got to make sure I don't run out of time and leave you in this dark spot. So the meaning of life is to fulfill God's purpose for our life. The confusion starts when we are all looking for the boulder level purpose. Because if everybody is a boulder, then who are the pebbles? We're also going to touch on that. When we need that boulder level purpose, when we become depressed because the absence of boulder level purpose leaves us questioning our existence. Well, I'm not like Martin Luther King Jr., therefore I'm no good. I didn't make this impact in our country. I'm not like Abraham Lincoln, George Washington. So I'm no one. I don't matter. Meaningless. Meaningless. It's all meaningless, right? So that's what we're going to do. It's spend the next few weeks looking at God's purpose for us both as boulders and as pebbles. We're going to look deeply into our understanding of it, into our relationship with it, our struggles, our ideas of this concept of pebbles and boulders, when what we want and what we think we ought to be and everything in between all collide, and we find ourselves lost, despite the clear and wonderful fact that we have the creator of the universe on our side. Like I said, I could go darker into this questioning that we have of who we are and the existential crisis that Solomon shared there in Ecclesiastes 1. But what I really want us to do this quarter is to learn both sides of the spectrum there. That yes, you can be a giant in God's plans for your life and the things that He wants to accomplish with you. So that gives me 5 minutes. All right, perfect timing. Or you can be a pebble, and that's all right too. What I want us to get to together here by the end of all this is to be well equipped to be either. To accomplish the gigantic things that will change a bunch of lives, or live your life in such a way that you change anyone you come across in the most itty-bitty way, but the chain reaction that comes with it. So I guess what I'm saying after all of this is that I don't think I'm alone in the discovery of this questioning of our desire for purpose, for this greater purpose. And I've talked to a lot of people who are in very dark places because of this exact question. What's the point of it, right? So now that we have about 5 minutes, questions and comments. Push the button.
Being remembered beyond your life and gaining great riches and having your name on a building. But if you focus on being a boulder in God's sight, you'll get that. Because as a Christian, you will be remembered for eternity by God. You'll have your name in the book of life, maybe not a building, but a more important place. And you'll have the greatest riches, because he says, what does a person gain if you gain the whole world and lose your soul?
Yep.
So you'll be a boulder in God's sight. Whether you're a boulder in man's sight, it doesn't really matter if you're a true Christian.
Yep.
Since I have the microphone, I guess I'll go ahead first.
You'll go first, and then you can bring it to
I have
him.
control right now. Sorry. So I was thinking the exact same thing. I definitely want to be a boulder, but I don't care if my name's engraved on it. You know what I mean? The linebacker, I can't even remember his name right now. And his sounded very arrogant. It was all about him. And I think when it comes to being a boulder, it needs to be a humble boulder. I think I might have mentioned this in the Wednesday night Bible class, that every preacher that just wants to leave his name out there and make himself famous has the wrong perspective on life. And I think it's really ironic that Solomon, saying that everything was in vanity and so forth, and nobody's going to remember your name. Think about how many thousands of people are named Solomon today and the impact that he really has left. But it's because of his spiritual impact, not so much because of who he was.
First of all, I want to thank you for the presentation, because we all, or most of all, almost everyone does wonder, why am I here? Who am I? And why do I have to go through some of the things I have to go through? It's a test. God created us in His image with an intelligence and the ability to look at things, whether they be good or they be evil. And we pass or fail that test individually each and every day. He gave us one rule, golden rule: do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, which implies love me like I have loved you.
Oh, yeah, all of these things. Do we have another comment? Because I know the time is going to expire here soon. But for example, the next class, what we're going to touch on is the fact that very few want to be pebble. The desire to being just a little pebble. And so we're going to talk about, I'm jumping a little ahead here, but that's all right. We're going to talk about this conflict that we have, that very few people sets themselves up to, I'm only going to be this. We tend to pursue the boulder, even if it's humbly. We pursue that big thing. And how about the little things? How about how you, and I may be getting ahead and may repeat myself, which I probably will repeat myself a lot this quarter, but how about how you treat the cashier in the store? How about how you smile at somebody in the morning, even though you didn't have your coffee yet, right? So that's perfect timing. So let me say a quick prayer and we will transition. So if you bow with me. Most wonderful Heavenly Father, we know that all things work for good. We know that you are a loving God. And so we simply pray for wisdom to discern the things that you want from us, the choices in life that we make, that we do all those things with you in mind and the ultimate result. And that we will accept whatever you put in our lives, whether it be greatness or a routine smallness, but smallness for your kingdom. Lord, we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.